Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Tatas podcast. This is season 1, episode 9, and today's subject is elders, titles, and wisdoms. Why all elders are not made equal. So let's get into it. So right off the bat, I will say, all elders are not made equal. It's time for people to put down the preconceived notion that if this person has this title, then they're good enough. No, they're not. So there is a concept of someone purchasing a title versus someone earning a title. So basically, there are certain people that they're going through whatever life crisis they're going through. Let's say, for example, they're in Cuba or in Nigeria and they got whatever financial problem going on. And so if you approach them with enough money, they'll sell you a title. And I do mean that word, sell you a title. There's no earning it here. There's no real wisdom. There's no knowledge behind that. It's just a title. On paperwork, it might look good. In bios and in profiles, it might look good. But realistically speaking, right, you did not get the wisdom that goes with that title. So that title now implies that you are something that you are not. So a person that purchases a title has an agreement with the person that sold it to them. And the agreement is, look, here's your title. Now go do what you're going to do. Do your little spiritual business or whatever. Sell your oils, sell your soaps, sell your services, whatever. I don't really care. I just really need to cover this month's rent or whatever the case may be. So there's never any intention of teaching them anything. It's always like, here's your title, now go kick rocks. And these folks is growing more and more clear that these folks are now taking to, let's say, for example, social media and marketing themselves as some sort of elder. Well, they have the title, but they don't have the wisdom. They don't know how to be an elder. They don't know how to help anyone because they don't know how to help themselves. They didn't learn that. That was not a part of their agreement. That's not what they got. What they got was they paid and they were given a title. So they don't really know anything. Then you have the other side of this where it's certain elders that earned that title. So when they get it, it means something. It stands for something. They are exactly who that title implies that they are. This is the more correct way. This is what it should be. But unfortunately, in this world, people tend to use capitalism, and capitalism is the bane that destroys tradition. So basically, let's go over this. A lot of people on social media have these titles in their bios know nothing. They are not good elders to have. They are not productive. They can't really help you. They just paid someone to be able to put that in their bio. Some of them didn't even do that. They just started putting stuff in their bio without any titles officially. And this is not okay. But once they start marketing themselves, right, people tend to flock to them. Because, well, they're marketing themselves. They're running excellent marketing, excellent PR, whatever you want to call it. And so people flock to them because they're looking for help. But what they don't know is that they are effectively shooting themselves in the foot by flocking to these people. Another scenario that does exist is a person that just recently, quote unquote, initiated, then turning around and telling others that they will be their godparent, seeking godchildren when you are brand new yourself, and people flocking to others that are brand new. This is such a terrible thing. This is such a tragedy to watch in motion. It's poetry in motion in all the worst ways, right? So someone that is brand new may also have the titles, but they also do not have the wisdom. So they can't really help you in anything. They can say that they do, but they don't. They don't know. No matter how confident they speak, no matter how excellent their social media may seem, they cannot help you. They are new. They are new. They just got in themselves. So how can they teach you, and how can they guide you when they are still brand new themselves? And the folks that flock to them, generally, you have a few different scenarios there. So there's people that know this. They know that this is wrong, and they don't care. And they encourage it, and they help this person. This is because, well, let's be honest, they could have their own agenda. Maybe this is their friend. Shoot, maybe they're getting a financial kickback from this person for quote unquote referrals. There's so many different reasons a person would do this. Then there's those that are naive or ignorant and don't know that this is not what it should be. And they think that as long as you're initiated, well, boom, you can guide others. They don't know that someone that is brand new is still not eligible to be leading anyone. These folks are the ones that have it the worst, because these folks just go around in circles, chasing these people, following them to the ends of the earth because they speak confidently or because someone said something positive about them, and they go and they follow this person, they get up under them and throw their whole damn life away behind this person. And this person knows nothing. They are brand new. And then there's the folks that just quite frankly do not care because they're in it to purchase titles themselves. So they see that this person is new. They know that this person doesn't really know anything. But you know what else they know? They know that this person also just had a very big expense for their initiations and whatnot. And so if you approach them offering them money in hopes of getting a title, right? They're gonna see that as, this is how I pay back for everything that I just paid for my initiations. So yes, I'll do it. I'll give you those titles. All of the above things are terrible. They're wrong. They shouldn't be, but they are. Specifically heinous is the person that knows better and still continues to help the person to deceive others. This is not okay. This person will then, future reference, if the newly initiated quote unquote elder becomes, let's say, corrupted, and they do something wrong, and their God kids or their followers expose them for their wrongness, it's usually the one that was helping recruit that will wash their hands and say, I'm a victim too, I didn't know. No, you were actively helping this person recruit. You did know. You were a part of it. But now you're going to wash your hands and say you had nothing to do with it. Own the responsibility of the fact that you helped create that monster. If it wasn't for you, that monster wouldn't have had such a successful recruitment campaign. You did this. You created that monster. Stop sitting here and blaming just the monster, and blame all those who helped that monster become the monster it is. Yes, the newly initiated elder should also be held accountable. Absolutely. They are the main one that should be held accountable. Absolutely. But there are others around them that help them position themselves in such a way that should also be held accountable. Because without them, that person wouldn't have been able to do what they did. So even if that person had the worst intention, they just didn't have the PR, the marketing, whatever you want to call it, to really make those kinds of moves in the first place. So even if they had the worst intent, they wouldn't have been able to do it without those people, the recruitment people, people that give good reviews, even though they know those good reviews are bullshit. Those people helped create these monsters, and so they should also be held accountable. They should not be allowed to cry victim. You did this. You created that. You are not a victim. You are a part of the problem. Especially if you are over here claiming to be an elder yourself. That's even worse. Because a real elder should never endorse another quote unquote elder unless they know that this elder is actually good. Remember, as an elder, there's certain responsibilities that are expected of you. You are seen as a beacon of hope, a beacon of light. Your word is taken as bond. Word is bond. Words mean things. So when you're out here endorsing others, everyone that looks to you for reliable information will then see that other as being recommended by you, which means that they must be good. This is not okay. So moving along from that, elders that earn titles are a whole different breed, and you can always tell it, right? You can always tell who bought a title and who earned a title by standing them next to each other, or by having them have communications in the same spaces, in the same clubhouse room, in the same Twitter chat. You can always tell who earned it and who bought it. And what I mean by that is, so the ones that bought titles generally won't have anything really much to say. They won't have answers for a lot of the questions. The ones that did earn these titles, oh well, see, they have all the answers, all of them. And it becomes more and more apparent as time goes by and they're in the same space, that one of them is basically not shit. But they're out here recruiting people and initiating people, meanwhile they're not shit. And they don't see a problem with this. In their mind, this is okay. Please, people, wake up and don't do this. Do not do this. Don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to the people around you. Don't do this on social media like so many are doing right now. I made a tweet about it the other day, and it's very interesting. In that tweet, I said that a year from now, there will be people crying about being hustled or scammed by yet another set of bullshit godparents. And the reason I made that tweet is because I see a certain movement. It must be recruitment season, because I see a certain movement on Twitter recently where everyone keeps talking about how, oh no, because I'm an elder, because my godparents, because this and that, and they're turning the general conversation towards recruitment, and all their followers are seeing this, so their followers are turning towards recruitment. And the issue with this is that most of these people that are saying stuff like this have no idea about nothing. I'm sorry to say it, but they don't. The general consensus of what I've experienced myself as an elder on these social media streets is that 90% of everyone that says they have certain titles either doesn't have them or does have them but doesn't know jack shit. They have no business being anyone's elder. That's 90%. Then there's the other 10% that actually earn these titles, and when you press them privately through a DM and you start asking questions, oh, you get back the answers without any kind of hesitation, without any kind of problems. And these folks are very legitimate, but these folks generally do not have larger followings, because people don't want these larger followings. What they want is a person. They want to be able to deal with people correctly, right? And then the ones with large followings, they want to be able to sell services and products. So they need a large following. Think of like a store, right? If you set up a store in the middle of the desert, it could be the best store in the world selling the best products. If no one knows that the store is there and no one goes to the store will never make sales. So in order for the store to make sales is to get people in the door. It's the same concept with spiritual pages, spiritual accounts on social media. The best way to make sales on your spiritual oil, spiritual soaps, your waist beads, your this and that, is to have a bunch of people going to your page, to your profile. Well, see, a real legitimate elder that's within that 10% might not care about making those sales like that. They might be more interested in the tradition itself than selling you any kind of snake oil. So in a lot of cases, they do have a lot smaller followings. And in a lot of cases, it's the ones with the larger followings that are full of shit. Completely full of shit. I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, but I will say that there's several large accounts on Twitter right now that claim this or that other tradition. And I have reached out to them through DM to establish a dialogue and a check to make sure, they really are who they say they are. And you would be surprised at how many of those big accounts, quite frankly, didn't know the answers. Some of them didn't respond at all. So I can't say whether they're fraudulent or not at all, right? But some of them did respond, and their responses were out of this universe. It just so wrong on so many levels that it's like, how do you claim this title? How do you claim this tradition in your bio, in your profile, with so much confidence? How do you speak with so much confidence out here in social media? Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? Do you have no dignity? And then you turn around and you make sales. You make sales. Oh my God, you make sales. You out here charging an arm and a leg, a half of a person's soul for a reading or a divination, how y'all call it. These things are tragic. So let me explain how this ends. I've mentioned this also several times to people, and they don't like when I say it because it's hurtful to think about, but it is what it is. I've said several times that if you look back from now, 100, 200 years from now, all of these traditions will be known as African mythology. And they will be known as that because people that purchase titles, and some that don't even purchase titles, they just claim them, don't know shit. And they're continuing to spread their lack of knowledge, their lack of wisdom outward. So then the ones that don't know shit are teaching not knowing shit to everyone else. And then the collective doesn't know shit. So the collective just knows over the top, surface level information that can be researched in a book anywhere. And so within the next 100, 200 years, if it continues down this trend, you're going to end up with no one knowing any real information, everyone knowing surface level shit. It's just, that's how it goes. And then these traditions will be known as mythology. Just like Greek mythology, Norse mythology, all these other mythologies, that's what's going to become of these traditions. Then there's going to be certain select houses that may still hold on to the tradition and the preservation of the tradition. These houses specifically may carry the tradition, but as they see more and more of these kinds of spiritualists growing in popularity and having these swellings of followers, and all these followers following them and doing everything wrong and messing up their whole spirituality and their whole life, every time they see that happen, the legitimate practitioners grow more and more weary of the outside world. And we shut ourselves in from the outside world. We don't want to deal with this nonsense. This is just buffoonery. This is clown shit. Because you're constantly being told to use your discernment. You are constantly being told not to trust all these elders, and you are constantly picking the most popular elder, leading you down the wrong path yet again. You're constantly picking elders that have no reason being elders. They're still new themselves, or they just bought titles themselves, so there's no value there for you. There's nothing there for you at all. But that's who social media continues to pick and endorse as a champion. So the real elders grow more and more closed off. They grow more and more weary to the bullshit and the nonsense. Because if you really had an interest in seeking real elders, the very first thing you would do is not look for who has the most followers. That's not how you search for elders. Capitalism has rotted some people's brains to the point where they think that the elder with the most followers is the better elder. That's not how these traditions work. As a matter of fact, these traditions fly directly in the face of capitalism. So, technically speaking, the elder that complies the most to capitalism is usually the one that is most off-brand within the tradition. The one that fights against capitalism the most is the one that is usually the most on brand with the tradition. So I say all that to say that these are all things that they push elders, true elders, into seclusion. And because of that, when these traditions start falling from grace, as I call it, and people only know surface level information, there will be a whole reckoning. There will be a reckoning that people will sit here and talk about the traditions that were once a time being practiced, and there will be people that still practice them actively. And then the people that talk about the once upon a time being practiced are going to feel some kind of way. We spent X amount of money. We spent X amount of time, X amount of effort to be in these traditions. And it never worked for us. And here these folks are, and they're practicing it. And why can't I? And that's when it's going to hit. That's when it's going to hit. Because you don't know shit and you aren't about shit, and your elder is a fraud. Period. In the famous words of Ziggy, if y'all don't know who that is definitely, that's one of my god kids, and definitely one of the more outspoken ones. One time there was a Zoom call that we were invited to, and people kept saying all the weirdest things for someone that's actually a practitioner of the tradition. And so Ziggy just opened her mouth and she said, "Your elders are frauds." And everyone jumped on her and they said, "We don't need your negativity here. We don't need your negativity." But she wasn't wrong. She was absolutely right. These people did not know a damn thing of what they were talking about. Everyone was claiming a title of a Tata, a Yaya, a this or that, and no one even knew how to go ahead and use a Patipemba on their own. They needed someone else to guide them. How to use a Patipemba. What do you mean you don't know how to use a Patipemba? Patipemba is a sigil or a symbol, a sign, a hieroglyph, whatever you want to call it, that's used in Palo to direct energy, to direct spirits. This is the language of the spirits. This is how you direct the energy and what you want it to do. As a Tata or a Yaya, which is titles of elderhood, that is one of the most primordial things that you should know. If you don't know this, how are you going to direct any energy to help others if you don't know how to direct energy at all without some sort of help? So yeah, she was not wrong. Ziggy was not wrong. Your elders are frauds. They sold you titles and they never taught you shit. Now you're over here running around the damn internet on Zoom telling people you're a Tata, but you don't know jack shit. They made you look a damn fool. They made you look a damn fool. And moving forward, that reckoning that is coming is going to be along the lines of people realizing that they are not shit. They are basically practicing mythology. They are one step away from practicing something like a Wicca. We just talk real fancy, but we don't really do nothing because we don't really know nothing. But you know what? Buy my crystals, buy my this, buy my that. But no one really does nothing. No one really knows nothing. And that's the reckoning that's coming because of all of these purchase titles and false elders and fraudulent elders and hustlers and scammers. So please, please, people, I want you to consider this. As an adult, would you ever turn to a 1-year-old for advice on life? I wouldn't. That's a 1-year-old. What do they know about life? So as a spiritualist, why are people turning to elders that are 1 year old or less? What do they know about spirituality with such little time in it? Why are these people being the champions of spirituality? As a matter of fact, a lot of these younger people within the traditions are still learning themselves what exactly their path is, what exactly their journey entails. And what I mean by that is, so there's people that could be their first year in, and yes, they got in, let's say, into Palo, but they, after a year, they're learning, hey, you know what, I don't quite resonate with Palo as well as I do with Odisha. So now let me start the journey for Odisha. But they're a year in, right? So you would sit here and be like, yeah, this is the best Tata. No, they're actually not. They're still on the journey towards the Orishas because they resonate more with the Orishas. And after a year, they're just finding this out. So that's actually not the best Tata. That is someone that came to Palo seeking answers, just like you are seeking answers. They didn't find the answers they wanted. And so they moved on to the next tradition, to the next part of their journey to find the answers that they're looking for. These people are still students in a very big way. They have not acquired any kind of special wisdom that should make them an elder. Even if their title says that they are an elder, they do not have the capacity of an elder. So I say all that to say that just like I wouldn't trust a 1-year-old to tell me about life because they don't know a damn thing about life, I wouldn't trust a brand new elder to tell me nothing about a tradition because they are still brand new themselves and they don't know a damn thing about the tradition. No matter how outspoken they are or how many people run positive campaigns of PR and recruitment for them, they are still a baby in these traditions. They don't have a damn leg to stand on. This is not okay for them to market themselves like this. They know that this is wrong, and they still do it on purpose. They still accept it because they are out here to hustle. And the people that recruit for them are a part of the problem, not the solution and not the victims. So a year from now, when all of these people that are on social media starting to claim titles now and get caught up in their own nonsense, because they will, and social media starts making outcries about how these elders screwed them and hustled them and scammed them, that tweet that I wrote a few days ago about it is going to still be recorded. And so I'm going to be able to turn around and be like, remember when I said this and no one listened? I did that actually not too long ago. There was another false elder that went and specifically started portraying themselves as an elder, but kept saying I'm not an elder. But they kept positioning themselves as an elder. They kept wanting to teach. And that's the role of an elder. Um, so no matter what your words say, your actions are saying something else completely. This person ended up being a fraud, flat out. None of their titles, none of their initiations, none of these things, none of the way that they spoke, none of the way they answered questions, none of this made any kind of sense. And people were still subtweeting, retweeting, liking, keying, introducing this person, recruiting people to come and learn from this person. And then it came out that this person did something especially heinous, especially wrong, towards others, a few of them, not all of them. But then it came into question the validity of this person. But I had already called that person out months before, and no one listened. And people continued to recruit people and introduce people to this specific person. And I see history repeating itself again because people continue to chase these false elders. People continue to chase these charlatans, these trash personalities, these bum scammers, these bum hustlers, instead of real elders. They continue to chase them. Now I'm seeing folks even talking about Abakwa on the internet and posting little pictures of their artwork of Abakwa. Meanwhile, Abakwa is an all-men society that has very strict, very strict rules and regulations. Women are not welcome in Abakwa, period. That's not optional. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm saying that's what the rules are. Women are not accepted at all, period. It is an all-men society. Another thing that is unacceptable within Abakwa is the LGBT community, period. That's not optional. That is a mandate. So, even if you fit the criteria of you are a man and you are straight, you still have to go through a whole vetting process, a whole vouching process. And even then, there's still a lineage that you must have. So you must be of Cuban descent. And then even then, you have to go to Cuba to get initiated into Abakwa, because Abakwa, the only houses of Abakwa are in Cuba, and they will not initiate anyone outside of Cuba. So you can be, let's say, for example, a Cuban can be initiated into Abakwa and move to, let's say, Venezuela. And they can rep their tradition in Venezuela, but they cannot initiate others in Venezuela. They have to come all the way back home and meet the brothers in Cuba and then be initiated. But even that's a problem because, like I said, you still have to have the lineage and you still have to have the person that vouches for you or the people that vouch for you. There's a lot to it. So please explain to me how people are on social media, no Cuban descent, a woman writing books about Abakwa, the LGBT community putting pictures of Ideme. Do y'all even understand what you are saying, what you are implying? You are lying to people. You are claiming traditions and knowledge of traditions that you do not belong to because you cannot belong to them. Stop lying to these people. Stop it. It's the same thing with Palo. Everybody wants to talk about how, oh, I went to this one misa one time and they said that I had a Congo spirit. So now I get to rep Palo. Are you initiated in Palo? Are you? Because if you're not, stop lying. You do not get to speak on Palo if you are not initiated in the Palo. Period. That's just how it works. If you're not a part of it, keep your mouth shut. You stay out of that business. That's not your business. Mind your business. Stop lying to these people. Real elders would never do this. Real elders would want to speak on exclusively what they actually are a part of and what they actually do know about. So even, let's say, for example, even if I gave one of my god kids a title of elderhood, right? A priest title, a tata, a yaya. which I have, the specific phrase, the specific understanding that comes with that title is, I don't care if you have that title, you shut the hell up. You do not get to claim that you are an elder until you know something. Don't be out here recruiting God kids. You have the title, but you cannot recruit God kids until you know enough to actually help them. I do have God kids that are tatas and yayas, and they're specifically forbidden from pretending like they're anybody's elder until they earn that. Until they earn that ability. That's how real elders do it. So, I say all this to say that titles do not make elders. Wisdom makes elders. And not all of these people that are all over social media claiming titles are worth a damn. The majority of them are either fake or bought those titles. Then the smaller portion of them are real. And of the ones that are real, very few of them will actually have large followings. And the majority of people that are quote unquote spiritual with large followings claiming titles, the majority of them are gonna be full of shit. Unless, of course, there's another reason for their large following. Like, let's say, for example, if I'm famous, but I'm not famous for my spirituality, let's say I'm famous because I wrote a book, and then I just so happen to be initiated, then yes, that would explain my large ass following because I'm famous for my book. I wrote a kid's book or something like that, and that made me popular. That made me famous. Unless that's the case, then maybe they won't fall in with that category. But the ones that are famous for their quote unquote spirituality and they're putting stuff in their bios and profiles, the greater majority of them are gonna be full of shit. They just have really good PR, really good marketing. They have a lot of people, a lot of friends that are willing to help them hype themselves up so that new faces looking into spirituality can almost exclusively look at them and no one else. And so the real elders are being drowned out. They are being drowned out. They are a tiny little whimper in the giant chaotic mess of all the noise that's coming from the people that are full of shit. And this is why it's so hard nowadays to find reliable and good elders. Because the people that are full of shit are making a lot of noise. And people are helping them. Knowing that it's wrong, they are helping them. But yes, I just wanted to mention that, bring that up, and clear up some of the air. Please, people, use your discernment. Real elders have actual wisdom. And I'm not talking about history, because anyone can open a book and read some history. That's another thing that a lot of these fake ass scamming and hustlers do. They open books and they read about the history of things. And they tell you, well, I know the history, so I must be legit. Well, shit, anyone could pick up a book and read a history. Tell me something about the spiritual side of this, not the history side of it, the spiritual side. Teach me. Let's do something together. Let's work together. Can you work with me? You know what? How do I come meet you? Real elders do not shy away from an in-person meeting. How do I come meet you? Where you at? I need to get a cleansing. I need a reading and a cleansing in person. Let's go. Where you at? Real elders will not run from that. Real elders will be like, shit, I done that like 1,000,000 times. I ain't worried about it. About a bunch of these fake elders on social media with these purchase titles and whatnot. A lot of them are still new themselves. They've never actually done an in-person reading. They've never actually done a cleansing. Never. So you would be the first. And guess what? When you show up, they're nervous. That's if they even give you the address, because they might come up with some sort of excuse as to why they can't do this in person, this, that, and the third. But anyways, I digress. I'm going on a tangent. But yes, real elders are a whole different breed. but they are very rare to find. And the greater majority of these people on social media are out here hustling. They out here selling products. They out here selling services and putting these things in their bios. But the reality of the matter is that they are nobody's elder. That title in their bio, or their profile does not actually make them an elder. They don't actually know shit. And for some of those that really do have that title in the bio and really did get initiated, where are your elders? Because I'm sure that some of you out here on these social media streets are claiming titles that you don't really have. You're initiated, but you don't really have that title. And if someone were to call your elders and tell them what the hell you doing on social media, your elders gonna lose their shit on you. But that's a whole nother story. But yes, I just wanted to touch on this for y'all and tell you to open your eyes, use your discernment, look at the reality of these spiritual traditions. Stop looking at them with a capitalistic mindset and a capitalistic eye. The one with the most followers is not the best elder. In fact, it's usually the worst one. Sometimes there are exceptions. Sometimes you'll have an amazing elder and they built up followers throughout the course of the years and people really like this person and whatnot. But for the majority of times, the spiritual accounts that are the biggest with the most followers are usually the ones that are most likely to be bullshit. With that said, thank y'all for listening. Be blessed. And remember, respect your spirits, respect your ancestors.